As Zelensky orders a last stand in Bachmut, the fighting between Russia and Ukraine intensifies on the battlefield. Now, there is good news from Kyiv. Tens of thousands of reinforcements are heading to Bachmut. The United States has also indicated when it will join the battle. So far, the battle in Bachmut and the Donetsk region between Russia and Ukraine has been raging for months. Under the fierce fighting of both sides, the area has turned into a living hell. Various artillery bombardments have turned the positions into a sea of flames. The United States has long hoped that Zelensky would give up defending Bachmut, withdraw troops, and redeploy them elsewhere. However, Zelensky believes that Bachmut is a symbol of Ukraine's resistance against invasion and must be held at all costs. But can Ukraine really hold on? Currently, Bachmut is under siege by the Wagner mercenaries, and the Ukrainian military is nearly surrounded. Not only has Wagner surrounded Bachmut, but it has also completely taken control of the eastern region, inching closer to its goal of encircling the Ukrainian forces. The ammunition-deprived and besieged Ukrainian military is evidently struggling, and many soldiers have already begun to flee. However, Zelensky does not want to give up. On the one hand, he orders over 10,000 Ukrainian soldiers to continue holding Bachmut and reclaim lost positions. On the other hand, he continues to gather reinforcements to advance towards Bachmut, determined to retake the city. The difficult situation not only worries Ukraine but also concerns Western countries. At this critical moment, good news comes from within NATO, providing fighter jet assistance to Ukraine. Previously, Poland and Slovakia had prepared to aid Ukraine with fighter jets, specifically the Soviet-era MiG-29s. Additionally, Poland and Slovakia have called on other NATO countries to join the efforts of providing fighter jet assistance. Though the number of fighter jets provided by these two countries to Ukraine is quite limited, it is still good news. With NATO opening the door for fighter jet assistance, more countries will undoubtedly provide Ukraine with fighter jets in the future, such as Typhoon, Rafale, or F-16 fighters. The appearance of these jets on the Ukrainian battlefield is only a matter of time. For Ukraine, even a small number of fighter jets from supportive countries can alleviate the current predicament. Apart from NATO's discussions on military aid, the European Union is also planning to provide a new round of assistance, spending €3.5 billion to purchase weapons for Ukraine. Part of the funds will be used for collective procurement of ammunition, while the rest will encourage EU member states to strengthen their assistance in weapons and ammunition to Ukraine. As the West discusses aid for Ukraine, Kyiv seems to be inspired, sending massive reinforcements to Bachmut. In recent days, the number of Ukrainian forces west of Bachmut has increased dramatically. According to reports from the front lines, up to 40,000 Ukrainian soldiers have been brought to the contact lines between the two armies. The commander of the Ukrainian army has also arrived at the front lines to direct the battle. Could it be that the Ukrainian forces are preparing for a counterattack? I believe this possibility cannot be ruled out. The new situation in Bachmut can be summed up as a counter-encirclement. To be more specific, Wagner has surrounded tens of thousands of Ukrainian defenders. In fact, Ukrainian soldiers had begun to retreat earlier. However, due to Zelensky's decision, these soldiers chose to continue to hold their ground. Although they are now caught in a dilemma, unable to defend or withdraw, Zelensky's decision was not made out of thin air, as he planned to continue reinforcing Bachmut. The reinforcements are not just empty words, nor are they simply about sending more troops to the battlefield. Instead, there is a strategic plan in place. At present, Ukraine has assembled forces from 12 brigades, totaling about 40,000 troops, who are ready to defend Bachmut and launch a counterattack against Russian forces and Wagner mercenaries. The 40,000 reinforcement troops should not be underestimated. They have surpassed the previous number of troops and demonstrate Ukraine's determination to defend the city. These reinforcement units have not only received the latest offensive weapons from the West, but also include a large number of artillerymen, tank operators, and pilots who have received training in Western countries. Their combat capabilities are stronger than those of the frontline forces, making them the elite forces of the Ukrainian armed forces. At the same time, NATO-supplied weapons will continue to enter Ukraine through the Polish border. The Ukrainian army is waiting for the opportunity to counterattack and even counter-encircle the enemy. Ukraine's decision to counter-encircle the Wagner mercenaries is actually a last resort, as Russia's previous tactics involved completely surrounding Bachmut. Russia's initial tactical actions involved encircling Bachmut on three sides, cutting off the city's supply routes, and then advancing into the city from the east. The Ukrainian forces were then caught in a pincer attack from the north and south, forcing them to retreat to the west, which would then complete the encirclement. It was just when Russian forces were about to complete the encirclement that the Ukrainian forces, who were originally withdrawing from Bachmut, received Zelensky's order to continue holding their ground. These Ukrainian troops had no choice but to engage in a desperate battle with the pursuing Wagner mercenaries, awaiting the reinforcements sent by Zelensky. Plykin said that Wagner had already surrounded tens of thousands of Ukrainian defenders, but tens of thousands of Ukrainian soldiers were also encircling them from the outside. The reason Zelensky did this was that there were only over 30,000 Wagner mercenaries in Bachmut. The 40,000 Ukrainian reinforcements, who had not only undergone training in Western countries but were also equipped with the latest weapons, were a formidable force. Coupled with the 10,000 defenders already in Bachmut, Ukraine's troop strength here reached over 50,000, more than enough to deal with the 30,000 Wagner mercenaries. The overall commander of the Ukrainian front line is Army Commander Kilko, who, after 2 on-site assessments, decided not to launch a hasty attack but to focus on defense. The reinforcements deployed in Bachmut remained in place, with only some rotations being made, confronting the enemy along the Bachmut River. After all, Ukraine has entered spring, and roads are becoming muddy, making it difficult for many heavy weapons to pass through, including Western-supplied Leopard 2 main battle tanks. Zelensky's senior aide also said earlier that the Ukrainian army is preparing for a counterattack within 2 months. He claimed that the stalemate on the Bachmut front is only to consume Russia's living forces, and then resources will be concentrated elsewhere to launch closer offensives. Currently, the Ukrainian army has strengthened the defenses to the west of Bachmut to prevent Russian forces from advancing further. In the next step, the Ukrainian army will wear down Russian forces through continuous urban warfare. Once the battlefield becomes deadlocked again, it will be difficult to predict who will win or lose. However, deploying 40,000 troops to relieve Bachmut will inevitably hinder the counterattack plan. It remains to be seen what strategic deployments Ukraine will make in the future. Plykin is well aware that his troops are already at high risk on the battlefield, so he has requested more reinforcements from the Russian Ministry of Defense. At the same time, Wagner is facing a severe shortage of ammunition supplies, which is Plykin's most frustrating issue with the Russian Ministry of Defense, as Wagner's troops have suffered heavy losses due to this problem. It's clear to Plykin that if only Wagner is present in Bachmut, the chances of being encircled are very high. Wagner wants to continue the offensive, but faces the problem of heavy offensive weapons not being able to advance. Moreover, they need several times the number of troops to encircle, and Wagner's current strength is far from enough. The disunity among the Russian military and internal strife within the Ministry of Defense have always been a severe problem. Outsiders speculate that the overall commander of Russia's special operations is worried that Plykin's military achievements will be too high, making the Russian regular army lose face, so they limit all kinds of supplies and reinforcements for Wagner. Furthermore, Plykin does not want the Russian regular army to come to Bachmut, fearing they will snatch Wagner's military achievements. In summary, Ukraine's counter-encirclement tactics, combined with the contradictions between Wagner mercenaries and the Russian military's internal issues, make the strategic situation in Bachmut increasingly uncertain. So, when will the United States step in? A few days ago, the United States launched a simulated attack on St. Petersburg with B-52H bombers, including breaking through Russia's air defense and missile defense systems and launching nuclear missile attacks on infrastructure within Russia. Outsiders speculate that the United States is using this as a deterrent against Russia and supporting Ukraine. But the reasons behind this are not so simple. Recently, the Russian military has launched 81 missiles, bombing infrastructure throughout Ukraine, including 6 Kinzhal hypersonic missiles. For Russia to launch 6 Kinzhal missiles at once, it seems like overkill to the outside world. After all, conventional weapons could have been used to strike infrastructure within Ukraine. However, the Russian media provided an answer. One of the bunkers hit by the Russian missiles housed a NATO Shadow General Staff office. It is reported that this headquarters is responsible for coordinating the deployment of Ukrainian forces on the battlefield, which includes not only Ukrainian high-ranking officials but also military personnel from the United States and other NATO countries. This attack resulted in the deaths of dozens of NATO officers on the spot. Therefore, the Russian launch of the Dagger missile was clearly aimed at this location. The outside world also sees this as the first large-scale attack against NATO military personnel, and the specific casualties are not yet clear. Obviously, the confrontation between Russia and NATO is becoming more intense, which reminds me of the MQ-9 Reaper drone incident. Anatoly Antonov, the Russian ambassador to the United States, said that if the United States began to shoot down Russian planes in neutral airspace, it would be tantamount to declaring war on Russia. Famous American investigative journalist Seymour Hersh also said that if Ukraine loses, the United States may directly join the war. The United States has now assembled approximately 100,000 troops in Europe, including the 82nd Airborne Division, the 101st Air Assault Division, the 1st Cavalry Division, and the 3rd Infantry Division, and established 4 sniper lines. Once a conflict breaks out between the United States and Russia, the U.S. Air Force will launch a rapid response system and utilize hundreds of airports throughout Europe for operations. At the same time, U.S. fighter jets will intercept Russian fighters along the entire confrontation line. The second sniper line is to use the Patriot air defense system to intercept Russian cruise missiles and ballistic missiles. The third sniper line is to use the U.S. Aegis fleet deployed in the Atlantic and the Mediterranean, using Standard Missile-6 to intercept Russian missiles. One Aegis ship can handle 40 targets. The last sniper line is the U.S. stealth aircraft, such as using F-35 fighters to attack Russian key missile bases and airports. In addition, the commander of the U.S. Army Combined Arms Center said that the war between the United States and Russia will be decided by the Army. The U.S. military believes that 30 mechanized infantry battalions, 30 fighter squadrons, and 30 warships can ensure a strike force against the Russian Army. Judging from the current composition of the U.S. military, 30 combat squadrons of the Air Force have 420 combat aircraft, and 30 mechanized infantry battalions are equivalent to the strength of 4 divisions. Coupled with the naval fleet, the 100,000 U.S. troops stationed in Poland alone already have the strength to confront the Russian army, and the key is that the U.S. Air Force will also provide air cover. Russia has apparently also received some information. The Russian military high command said that the United States is forming a military alliance in the Black Sea, including the United States, Turkey, Georgia, Romania, and Ukraine. The U.S.-led multinational military alliance in the Black Sea may take specific actions against Russia. It is clear that the battle between the two sides is imminent. When do you think this multinational military alliance will go to war with Russia? Please feel free to discuss in the comments section.